So far we've looked at how the various different sounds help to create the form. So one way this happens is that certain pressures build up inside the system. Now a high pressure, just like with the weather, creates a low pressure at the opposite side of the charge or the atmosphere, basically meaning that when we create or when we experience this high pressure state, as in martial arts, as in stress, as in fighting, we have to release this without dissipating it. So in a rage state, you may experience a lot of pressure in the abdomen, in the belly, fire in the belly, but it's about spreading this flame, allowing it to fuel, allowing it to create a steam of fire and water, which is the interplay of forces. So when we have this pressure, as in meditation, as in martial arts, we're looking to create a wider circulation. And one way we can do this is by releasing this pressure in a controlled way so that it doesn't just dissipate the lower end of the spectrum. This is what the sounds create. They create a release like a valve so that it's a controlled release, extending this pressure or converting it up the spine, up the nervous system, so that instead of just being experienced here, you experience it up here and here. So one way we can do this is to ready the base by tilting the pelvis forward slightly as we create this, as we experience this tension in the abdomen, the center of gravity. The chest is elevated, the chin is down. We can check. One way to do this is to check whether we can breathe from the throat by blowing as if in a mirror, steam onto a mirror. You should feel in the pit of your throat a pressure. With the pelvis tilted, this extends the force up through the spine, and by lifting the abdomen, by lifting the chest somewhat, we create a concaveness as well as an extension. So we're not like that or like that. There's a lift so that we're fully defensive as well as lifted and not too compressed. So we want to expand this area to maximize breathing, but we don't want to be too upright. So the chin is down. So back to this idea about the pressure system. We want to release in the best way possible. That's where the posture comes in. That's where the breathing, the exhalation in particular, releases the pressure. Now we use the sound because this engages the core. The R sound engages the core. The engages the neck. So this creates a circulation, a link from the upper and lower body. So we have this idea of relieving pressure, because otherwise the system would just experience too much stress, too much concentration. It's like the earth. The center of the earth is the highest pressure. As this pressure polarizes, we have, without going into too much detail, we have the Earth's surface, the atmosphere, so there's a denseness in the middle, and then a gradually subtler force, which actually creates a polarization, a separation of charge, without which the Earth would not function. You wouldn't have the environment for life to exist. This is why we're talking about linking Earth to the skies or to the heavens, because we're linking the physical center to the subtler centers which are higher up, and we do this through the breath. So the breathing is used, the sounds are used to link the upper and lower body. We have the more upper sounds, higher. We have the lower sounds, which really creates a groundedness. We have a mixture, which create a combination. So we're playing with these different speeds, tempos, always remaining linked. And we can do a variety of different things. So we're mixing it up. We've looked at pressure, we've looked at sound, how the physical body creates a posture which is optimal for release and utilization of this pressure, which builds up naturally as well as in the practice of martial arts. That's why there was so much focus on the meditative side, or if you like, the release side, rather than just creating tension, the optimal release. There's different sounds you can use. It's likely that as things are interpreted from Sanskrit, the Buddhist teachings, they came to China, came to Japan, there was different interpretations or different methods emphasized. So originally it was, the original sounds were ah, oo, and This creates an ah, oo, in the meditative states. This became om, and various other syllables were added on, to create a different way of doing things. So if we add the to the R, this creates a very quick release rather than a slower And in the same way, the so creates a quick exit of the breath at the very last moments, so that you fully release at the end. In Taekwondo we have the kia, or simply kia. That creates a very quick release of energy. So there are different ways to play around depending on the system. The main idea is to release the energy, release the pressure, and to create a circulation of energy rather than just fits and spurts. So that's the final bit on how the sound influences the practice. Now obviously we have, just as the earth has minerals, a core, a crust, an atmosphere, we have air, we have bone, we have minerals, we have various different materials which all reverberate the sound rather differently. Some absorb it, some reflect it. Bones, very dense, solid things, reflect it, and others absorb it, or heat is created through the sound, such as in the intestines. This is why it's the hottest region of the area, the body, the intestines. It creates a heat, whereas other regions, when the sound is experienced, transmit it, such as through the nervous system, transmits it very well. Other areas create a kind of other denser, the bones, for instance. They might reverberate the sound more. So this complex interplay of the organism, which is the human being, very intricately creates a pressure system of high and low, as well as a system of transmitting energy. And the words we use, the sounds and syllables we utter have a great influence on that. If you were to look at a sonograph, you would see underwater, for instance, where the reverberations were happening, this would create an image, and this would create a form in our mind. We're in the habit of looking too much at how things look and not sensing how they feel and the reverberations we have. Now, in the past, they wouldn't have been able to look extensively at these things visually, so they'd have to feel them more. So this is a lesson to be learnt. So the idea is to feel the pressure and sense it within rather than just visually. Visually is very good, but also the internal reverberations give us a very big clue as to how everything works. So this idea of the sonograph would create a picture according to the different points where the sound bounces off, reverberates, concentrates, and this creates the form in martial arts and even within the human body around which forces and matter can move and energy is generated. So sound is essentially energy. It goes through different phases. It transfers through the intestines, for example, to create a heat. Heat then creates a kind of warming up, a transference. This creates a circulation which helps create oxygenation of the body, air, steam, sweat, all these things interplay to create an integrated whole which is all mutually coexistent, and you have a spectrum of energy which goes from sound, which goes to heat, which goes to oxygenation, temperature control, physical movement, breathing, and all this supports the organism. So there's a strong link between the sounds and the air which they travel through, and on the way create the body, create the movement, create the form.